Here's what all the fuss is about. That's a tine spring there. That's the OEM spring there. And you can probably see that the aftermarket spring is just a little bit shorter than the other one. That should result in about an inch worth of drop on the ride height, make us look a little bit less 90s, something a little more modern. Pop that off. So now we've got all the strut bolts out. We've got the pinch bolts on the bottom out. We've got the brackets for the ABS sensor and the brake line out. We've released the 3 bolts on the top, and we've popped off the electrical connector for the ECS. The whole thing's supported by a jack. Now we can just back the jack down and pull the strut out of the hole. And there she comes. So that's what she looks like out of the car. Now we gotta get that spring off. So this is my ATD 7550 master spring compressor tool. As you can see, it's a pair of long threaded shafts with a couple of different adapters that bolt onto it depending on what kind of springs you want to compress. This thing works. It's very manual. It takes a fair bit of time because you have to jack down each side equally, which means turning the left side a little bit and turning the right side a little bit and so on back and forth until it compresses down. Not quite as nice as the big industrial machines that the actual garages use, but it's sturdy and strong and it's got some safety clips in there, so it does the job. For a bargain basement kind of tool, it's well built and allows you to get off the spring without a sudden unplanned conversion of potential into kinetic energy, which is always bad for you in the shop. So here's how you get that spring off. These 2 things here clamp down on the springs. You just get a wrench, you crank those suckers down, and it squishes the spring down. This is a hokier way of doing it than the tools that the big boys have, but it works, and it's got these nice safety things in here. I won't show you how I did the actual process of cranking them down, because the result is reminiscent of a monkey fucking a football. The end state is that the spring is loose in there. You see that it's moving, so we can go ahead, spin that off, that comes off, that comes off, the strut comes out, and there you go. I now have to slowly back that thing down again to decompress the spring and prevent the safety hazard that is several hundred pounds of force just itching to be released explosively. So here we've got her all apart. Now this is what goes in that suspension system. You can see that the other spring's a little bit shorter than the new one, which is exactly what we want. There you can see the spring compressor we used to get her off, which works just fine. And you can see that I've spent some time on that upper spring seat running it through the sandblaster to try and get some of the rust off. I've had a little bit of success on there, but it's going to need a whole lot more work before it's considered done. So we're making some progress. The big news here is that we figured out that that strut is dead. So we're going to have to order a new one in. And if I'm doing that, then I might as well replace the upper bearing pad as well, because that bearing is all chewed up too. So if we're going to do it, let's do it right. We've got ourselves some brand new ECS shocks. We've got ourselves some tine lowering springs. We've got the original stock spring seats, which have been sandblasted and powder coated. That's the original spring isolators and dust covers. And then finally up there, we have brand new upper mounts from Mitsubishi. So what we need to do now is go ahead and reassemble these things into a complete unit. So the natural next step for this, now that the struts are back together again, is to put the front suspension back on the car and see just how much of a drop these lowering springs generate. Except for one little problem. I pulled the engine out of the car. That means the front end is a good 500 pounds lighter than it should be, so we won't be able to see exactly what drop that is until I get the engine back in again. What's more, while the suspension's out, I'm going to do a measure and model project using WinGeo so we can figure out what the geometry is really doing. So we'll have to wait for a little while for me to finish this project before we can figure out exactly how far the lowering springs have lowered the car. So once the engine rebuild project's done and I get the drop video done, I'll link it here in an annotation so you can find it in a future episode. Oh, there we go. Thanks for watching.
Stop it now.